Hello and welcome to another episode of the Revenue Revolution podcast, sponsored by Jointflows. Today we're doing something different. We have done it before, so not too different, but we are doing a vlog. Still don't understand what vlog means, but Mick assures me that it's the right term. So as a refresher, I am Hitesh. I am one of the co-founders of Jointflows and also the CRO. And I'll let Mick reintroduce himself.
Yeah, my name is Mick, CEO, and the actual term is PLOG with a P because yeah.
What did I say?
I think it said vlog.
There you go. I know what vlog is, to be fair.
Yeah, so PLOG is the same as vlog, but I guess through a podcast, which is the P.
What does PLOG stand for?
I forgot. I forgot.
Real thought leaders in the space, but let's jump into it. We thought that the reason we do these kind of episodes is to, give you a little bit of a lens and a view into what it's like building Jointflows. And so for a bit of context, I'm coming up to 3 months. We've been there and we've done a lot. So we'll talk through some of the milestones that we've achieved in that time as well, and kind of get some views on it. So to begin with, as we're on the podcast, it's probably a good time to say we've launched a podcast. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, it's been amazing. We almost can't keep up with the amount of requests we get, like literally to go on the podcast. We've got weeks where we've got 6 or 7 sessions lined up. Today is the third one. So if you see me 3 times with the same t-shirt on, they've been recorded on the same day. I actually get changed, clothes every now and then. And it's been great for our brand. It's been great for our network. It's been great for our learnings. We get to meet a lot of people from different departments. So one of the focuses we had was not to be just sales, because we've got a sales background, obviously, so it would be easy to just speak about sales. And we want to bring light to the other departments. Everyone essentially is in sales nowadays, but not everybody seems to get the same level of exposure. So we want to speak to RevOps, we want to speak to enablement, we want to speak to customer success managers, leadership. We want to speak to, SDRs, biz dev managers, partner managers, everyone.
Yeah, we have been, and I think you've hit the nail on the head there, which is it's been really eye-opening as well. Understanding the different priorities and different challenges that all of these roles face. But from the conversations that we've had, what's been the biggest surprise to you?
I think obviously everybody's pushing their own agenda, certainly when they come on the podcast, but everybody's saying the same thing. It's harder to sell, deals are slipping, clients are harder to renew, onboarding takes ages, and the focus is around conversion. It's maximizing what you've got in the pipeline as is in the pipeline, whether it's in the pipeline, in the new business pipeline, or in the customer success pipeline, or it's almost irrelevant now. And there's an overall struggle around skill set, leadership efficiency, visibility, the type of data they get access to then make decisions. So they all end up making the same decisions because the data access is poor, the data fluency is poor as well. Internally, everybody, each software has its own data set, and then they don't translate, they don't merge into one another. So you go with what you've got quick access to, which is often like, hey, you know what? I had a genius idea today. Let's just triple the prospection KPIs. Wow, well done, great idea. Obviously, it just doesn't work. So yeah,
the leaky bucket. I think one of the feedback that I've had from the podcast is because we have all of these different people come on from different roles. Often when there's not a spotlight put on it, people feel alone. Like these are just challenges I'm facing in isolation. through it, you know, generally speaking, viewers get a lot of comfort as well, knowing that actually this isn't just a challenge I'm facing by myself, but actually all my peers are going through the same thing as well. You know, and there's something to be said to that as well. But we don't keep these PLOGs long, so let's move on to the next milestone. What else are we talk about? So obviously we did a podcast, which is great.
Yeah, we positioned well, we learned that our positioning was not as accurate as it should be, as reflective and strategic as what we actually do. So for those who are following us as we build Jointflows in public, you will see that we've pivoted slightly from closing orchestration to revenue execution, which is full spectrum outside of prospecting. Again, I think there's a consensus around the fact that, you know, the email channel is now flooded, and you kind of have to go and do something else in order to maintain those prospection KPIs. But the revenue execution positioning is very strategic, and is actually more in line with what we actually do, which is enabling revenue workflows to be quickly built, automated, orchestrated, and accelerated without any dependencies on RevOps, without any dependencies on CRM backend, without any lead time. And one of the conversations we've had with a lot of our guests who are, you know, experts in revenue operations is there are essentially not a single point of failure, but definitely a bottleneck, because they usually orchestrate many departments. They're responsible for the workflows for marketing, inbound leads, outbound leads, campaigns, sales, quoting, renewal, onboarding, forecasting, board packs, all of that. And they just can't keep up with the amount of requests they've got. So they just have to prioritize. And yeah, a single revenue workflow, which might be important for a department, specifically like new business, whatever, might not be as strategic for RevOps, so it would be deprioritized. And that forces a lot of DIY to be done as a result, to just essentially patch that lack of bandwidth. And that's where the mess happens. So our revenue execution platform helps you gain more control over these things, then increases visibility, and then you have 3 use cases, which are closing, onboarding, and expansion renewal, and they communicate with one another. So the more use case you bring to the table, the stronger Jointflows become.
Yeah, and I don't want for anyone who's listening to this episode in isolation to have it misconstrued. This isn't against our friends in RevOps. If anything, this enhances their ability to do their job as well. So, you know, it's about supporting them and supporting the companies they work with to achieve these revenue goals. Absolutely. Yeah, so other kind of milestones. I guess we've signed a couple of clients.
Yeah, we signed more clients. And I don't want to brag or jinx it, but we're actually in a trajectory where we're in the high 70s in terms of conversion rate, at least from a funnel progression level. So I think there's obviously something happening here. People have to be more nimble, more agile. There's been a Gartner report which was released a few months ago now, and the bottom line is sales funnels don't exist anymore. It's about milestone management. It's about mapping specific elements of the selling process with the buying process. And if you look at it from a funnel viewpoint, which is one direction, top-down approach, like, you're failing. You're gonna fail. You're gonna set the wrong expectations internally. You're gonna have difficulties to forecast, and you're gonna end up in a position where you're either behind the number knowing about it, or you're behind the number not knowing about it, and that's the worst you can be doing.
Yeah, I think something else that's interesting as well was the concept that was brought to light to me recently, that when you're a company who's an early stage like we are, a real big milestone is out of network client that you can get as well. And it's a validation of our proposition that the people that we're speaking to are not just within our network. The people that we're signing are not just within our network; they're also external to our network as well. So it's definitely resonating as well. What do you think has been the trickle down effect of changing our positioning outside of just making sure the conversations are good? And obviously the conversion rate has been key, but softer metrics, I suppose.
The deals are progressing faster. They start with more senior people. The metrics are very clear. And they're very strategic as well. So we're not speaking about sub metrics, like things that make up for the bigger metric, right? We're speaking about profit. We're speaking about bottom line revenue. And you're not trying to, create an equation that then say, oh, look, we may have an influence then on the bottom line numbers if we do X, Y, Z on that specific metric, as well as doing this on that sub metric. What we're looking at is, all right, where's your revenue gap? How much money do you burn? And how much money can we make using a tool like Jointflows? And we're being sent to, obviously we have to speak to everyone involved, but the recommendation is now very often made by a CRO or a CSO or a CEO, and the value of the positioning, I think, is twofold. We're part of the big boys now in terms of the type of investment, and we've seen clients take us on and reduce their Salesforce contract, for instance. Though I would love to be acquired by Salesforce, don't get me wrong, but we obviously bring a solution to the problem that they create in some sense. And the second thing, and I think it's more reflective to how we pitch, is we've got a sales deck, right?
Yeah.
But there's only one slide in it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the whole difference, is if you're relying on a 5 to 12 slide deck, there's an explanation to be made, right? And the more slides, the more explanations you have to give to essentially position your thing.
Yeah.
We can't do less than one. And it's, as you see, like, it's working. So it's obviously a synonym of being not well positioned, but strategic enough to be understood quickly and deployed.
Yeah, I think in our last PLOG, we spoke about changing ICPs and how we were willing to do that, and I think it's worked. It's been tremendous for us. And now in this PLOG, we're talking about changing positioning, which has also worked, and a combination of the two of those, I think, has led to an exponential impact, which has been great for us. So I guess the message is, when you are early stage, you don't always know the answer, but you have to try things, and you can't be scared to adapt and be agile in what you're doing. If you know that your product is good and you're solving problems. For us, we were fortunate that we found out that our product actually solves more problems than we initially thought, which is a good place to be. But it was the ability to be able to understand that opportunity is there through the conversations we're having with people. So don't be scared. But I think we keep these short and snappy, Mick. So that's probably it, unless there's any other little nuggets of insight.
Yeah, let's keep it running a bit, because those are our most successful episodes. But yeah, I think one thing that we've learned is, don't attach yourself emotionally to your initial idea, and often that's a mistake co-founders or early day contributors make. It's like, oh, I thought we were doing this.
Yeah.
And actually, what you think doesn't really matter, as long as your product doesn't move from selling socks to software. Like, you're still in the same sector. Just don't get over emotionally attached to your initial idea, because your initial idea is only relevant to yourself. And then be keen and quick to adapt to the feedback you're receiving that have commercial returns attached to that. Everybody's going to give you feedback, is what I mean, but you want to follow the feedback of the people who are willing to actually trade off a little bit of money in this case to make it work. So
Yeah.
yeah, if we had been attached or very stubborn around, I think we already have not much ego internally. I think that's what we discussed the other day.
Yeah.
We're very confident in what we're saying and how we're doing things, but we're also able to take on an advice and actually try it out at least, and then see if it works or not.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there again. I've seen many setups where ego becomes a problem. And you know, your own opinion isn't necessarily factual. And so it's being able to differentiate between the two. What is it that's an opinion, but what are you actually seeing? What's factual? And solving the factual information that you have, as opposed to just relying on your one single opinion. So yeah, absolutely.
What's the from the few pitches we had lately, what's the thing that you're the most surprised, negatively surprised by what you've heard from our clients?
Most negatively surprised?
Or like, how is this happening? Or kind of reactions, you know, like.
Yeah. So I think there's a couple of things, both good and bad. So, you know, we kind of understood where we drive value and where we don't to begin with. And it's seeing that, you know, we've had conversations with companies from different kind of parts of their journey. So they could be very early stage to their SMB all the way through to their enterprise, right? And the theme is consistent. You know, if you, from a new business perspective, so we're solving these 3 use cases now, the new business, a new logo, onboarding, and the expansion side of the businesses. When you're on the new logo piece, if you've got low complexity and you've got low volume, we're not a fit for that specific use case. And I think before, maybe we weren't aware that we could just make a segue, because just because you've got low complexity and low volume in new business, it doesn't mean there's not complexities within your onboarding process. And so before, maybe we didn't know we can be agile and move there. Whereas, you know, some of the clients we've signed recently have just been for onboarding because the sales process isn't as complex. So that's been quite a good surprise for me.
Yeah. And what I'm surprised by is, and we've had a few of these conversations when we were networking, is as a leader, the last thing I would do, and even as a business owner and you know, CEO of a company, is stop or getting rid of things that help me be more productive or more efficient at what I'm doing. And I've definitely heard like at least 5 times from very tenured leaders, because they've missed target, because they're behind, they have to get rid of some productivity tools that are part of the day-to-day of their users, because I agree, like there's that P&Ls and obviously like profit and costs and revenue generated, but how do you expect your team to sell more when you're actually giving them less tools than they were having when they were already missing target? Like, it's just, for me, it makes no sense.
Well, I think it's a balance. So I agree with you to a degree. I think that the tech consolidation piece, when you are missing target, is important because there's margins, right? It's a profitability exercise. But what you actually need to look at is, where is the overlap in the problems that are being solved between the techs that you have. So do you just invest in single point solutions that solve one problem at a time? Because if that's all you're doing, there's going to be some overlap somewhere, right? So very top of the head, you know, as an example, and I'm not suggesting you do this, you might have a sales loft on outreach, right? And you might have HubSpot as a CRM, but actually you can actually sequence through HubSpot as well. Now, obviously there's pros and cons to doing both, right? But it's about understanding where the overlap is, what problems you're trying to solve. I think there's nothing wrong with removing tech as long as you're still able to solve the problem. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think it does. I just feel like that's not how they're seeing it. I don't think they're saying, okay, I've got a tool who's got with 90% overlap with the other. Like you never buy to start with. That's the case.
Yeah,
you're just de-equipping, like getting rid of equipment for your sales team, and I just don't see how you feel like this is a good strategy ever. No, they were already underperforming with an advanced tech stack. Like, what is your expectation now?
Yeah, it's doing more with less. Yeah, absolutely. They weren't succeeding to begin with. How will they now? I agree.
There you go.
Well, I think we should wrap up. We do have somewhere else to be in 2 minutes. So thank you to our listeners for tuning in. And Mick, thank you for sitting down for another PLOG. This has been the Revenue Revolution podcast sponsored by Jointflows. Until next time, guys. Thank you very much.
See you later. Bye-bye.